right, welcome back, everybody. Take a quick check on the markets. It does look like the futures are going to be under a little bit of pressure this morning. Those Dow futures down by about 30 points right now. It's off the worst levels of the morning, but again, this is as we head into a weekend, and you have a lot of traders who are a little bit nervous about where they're going to put their money. If you've been watching the dollar, let's take a look right now, and you'll see that the dollar, at least, well, we'll check the dollar when we come back. We've also been watching the price of oil, which has been slightly higher, but sitting below $100 a barrel. And that's been a key point that a lot of people have been watching. Let's get back to our conversation with Prince Alwaleed Bin Talal. And Prince Alwaleed, you talked a little bit about oil prices before, that this is a little too high for where the Saudis would like to see oil, $70 to $80. How realistically do you think we can get back to those levels and when?
Well, Saudi Arabia will do its best to stabilize the market. At the end of the day, no one controls the market. We'll do our best to increase production if needed, if there's any crisis like the one we had in Libya. But I don't think we'll get to that price unless you have some stability in Libya and in the Gulf region, because there's the fear factor that we cannot control, obviously.
You think it's fear factor? You think it's speculators who are trying to make some quick money off of this? Where do the problems lie with driving the price this high? If it's not supply.
Oil is a commodity; it's being traded, so there's no an element of speculation is still there. You've seen now perhaps silver, hovering around 50 and now crashing back to 34 and below that. So speculation it plays a role, no doubt about that. But also there are some fundamentals. The political situation in Libya is not comforting for people. And what's happening in Bahrain, although there is tranquility now, stability there, but people still are thinking about what could happen, God forbid, if something happens there.
You touched on the subject of peak oil, and then we continued that conversation into the commercial break. The peak oil issues. How long is it going to be? How much oil do you have in Saudi Arabia, and how long can you continue to supply the world?
Yeah, I hear a lot about this peak oil myth or syndrome. Saudi Arabia's oil production now is around 9 million barrels. We have the capacity to go 12 million barrels. We try to increase that capacity to 15 million barrels just in case demand goes up in the future, which inevitably will go. And based on today's oil production, our oil will go to around 95 more years, because we have around 247 billion barrels of oil reserves.
The peak oilers that I read, and there's been so much written on it, but I don't know how they know. I don't know if they haven't been over there measuring your reserves, but they say the largest Saudi fields are tired. It's getting harder and harder to extract the really nice, light, sweet crude out of these fields. And for some reason, they make the case that the Saudi government has a reason to say everything's fine. I don't really understand it. It seems like if the world thought you were running out of the prices, you'd be even getting more for what you still have. So I don't really understand why that would be the rationale, but that's not the case. They're not tired. You're not having a harder and harder time for getting one.
I've been hearing about these oil wells being tired for the last decade. If these oil wells are tired and still producing almost 10 barrels a day, then it's good to be tired these days then.
I mean, you can also, there's new strategies for getting every last drop out too, aren't there? Does peak oil take into account that?
The new technologies which are already introduced in the world and Saudi Arabia will take care of this issue very clearly. We're in good shape, don't worry about that. I mean, all this issue about having our oil wells being tired is not true at all.
Is the nature of this OPEC meeting any different, given Ahmadinejad's interest and what's happening in Libya right now?
I think that Ahmadinejad personally, there's a rumor that he may share that meeting because he sacked his oil minister and he may be heading there to share it. This shows the world the importance of Saudi Arabia and the alliance between Saudi Arabia and the States, how it's important to stabilize not only oil, but still stabilize all the world economies which still depend on oil as the main product.
But with the price hawk as vocal as he is, does he have juice, as we say in this country? Does he have respect among the other members?
I mean, he can shout and scream, obviously, but as for the respect, I think the respect, we will keep that for Saudi Arabia.
Yeah.
I guess when the super spike that people worry about is if the oil fields were at risk in Saudi Arabia. Domestically, can you protect the oil fields, or do you need the United States at this point?
Saudi Arabia is in safe hands. And our oil wells in the East Province are in good shape. And clearly, with what's going on around us, we have to have extra security. So don't worry about that.
But the Saudi army is big enough, well-trained enough, and well-equipped enough for anything. And then you got, then you got Iran, too. So, but the United States must play a big role in your security.
You know, we don't have borders with Iran, you know that.
Yeah, right.
And clearly Iran has an interest also in not having an oil disruption in the Middle East and the Gulf, because also they are oil-based country. So I'm not sure they're going to shoot themselves in the foot also, because if you look at the hypocrisy of Iran, Iran also, internal situation is very bad. Actually, the first demonstrations took place in Iran 2 years ago after Ahmadinejad was re-elected.
Right.
You know, as many people are against him. So, Iran depends on oil more than Saudi Arabia and other countries. So they talk a lot, they create a lot of fuss, a lot of arguments, but then they depend on oil more than us. So a lot of hypocrisy in Iran.
Those demonstrations ended pretty quickly, too, I guess.
Yes.
And then what about Facebook and Twitter? I mean, that is it. It's changed the world where you are, too, right? And I wonder what everyone in Saudi Arabia have Facebook and Twitter, too?
Oh, sure. I mean, the youth in Saudi Arabia are like the youth everyone in the world, for sure. I mean, Twitter, Facebook, and all social networking is there to stay, for sure.
Yeah.
And you remember,
that would be scary for I don't know, for a monarchy. It would be, I think it would be scary.
No, it's scary for a monarchy or a republic that has not the subjects in full allegiance to its king or president, for sure.
Right.
But once you have allegiance of the people to its king and president, it's not scary at all.
We haven't talked a lot about China and whether or not they can, A, control inflation, and B, whether or not they face a slowdown if their economy is somehow built on a foundation of sand in a way. What's your take on China and their growth prospects?
You know, the growth in China is very much in the East Coast, those on the shore. But the more you go to the West, the more you see GDP per capita is lower. Clearly, China's now strategy and philosophy is to have the wealth that's been spreading in the West, in the East part of it, to the West. China is going to take another 20, 30 years really to get this thing, the GDP per capita going up. GDP in China, I mean, one day it will bypass the United States, because they have around $5 trillion right now, and you have around $14 trillion. Maybe in 5, 10, 15 years, they will pass, but because they have 1.3 billion people, and you have 1/3 of the people here of China. But GDP per capita will take long time for it to overtake the United States.
You know, we mentioned social networking and the power of things like Facebook and Twitter everywhere in the globe. What did you make of LinkedIn's IPO yesterday and the huge gains that we saw by the end of the day?
Yeah, well, it jumped yesterday more than 100%. It's clearly people are eager to get involved in any new internet company, especially involved in social networking. You know, Facebook now is loved by everybody, Twitter is loved by everybody right now, and this is a new wave too. And I hope that not a small bubble is being built up there. Although with Facebook, when it went, with Google, when it went public, people thought that it was a bubble, but proved that really it's a mature company right now. It's like Amazon, like eBay, those mature companies that really survived the bubble, and they're doing good.
Did you get any?
LinkedIn?
What's that?
On the IPO, did you get any?
No, we didn't participate in that.
You didn't get any? Now, what about, there's as much as you want, you can buy today, near 100. Hold off?
Usually buy underpriced companies, not overpriced companies.
But you say you hope a bubble isn't being built. Do you think one is?
Because if I invest in that bubble, Buffett will be upset from me.
Yes.
That's right.
Do you think this has the makings of one, a bubble?
Well, you know, one company does not make a trend. One or two companies doesn't make a trend. I'm not sure in 2001 yet. But, you know, we don't want bubbles. And hopefully people learn the lessons from what took place in 2001, because many companies got busted by going down 80, 90%. Some of them just disappeared completely. But clearly those survival. So those that survived, you know, like eBay, Amazon, they're doing good.
Now, I know we've been jumping around a lot, but Netanyahu is going to be going and talking to the president today, President Obama. What do you think the Middle East is going to be looking for in terms of what comes out of that meeting? What would make things, say, move forward? What would be a setback?
I think Obama has to be on track by re-emphasizing his speech. I think Resolution 242 was no surprise to anyone, including Netanyahu. Resolution 242 has been there since the 1967 war, and this is a UN resolution. So we cannot have hypocrisy in the world whereby some UN resolutions are imposed very swiftly and fast, and some resolutions not being imposed since 6 years. So I think we have to get credibility for the UN and the United States by having the UN resolutions 242, which goes back to the 6-7 borders, being implemented.
You went to the royal wedding. Now I understand that's why you were there. It's a royal wedding, right? But do all the royal families across, do you all get together? Is it like a family reunion or something? Is there a big VIP room for royalty at the wedding?
No, not really. You know, I was invited with my wife, Princess Amira. And, you know, I know Prince Charles is a very good friend of mine. He's the father of Prince William.
Beautiful one.
Yes, yes.
You were there?
Yeah, I was there with
Give
Prince.
us something.
I was there invited because I'm a good friend of Prince Charles and Queen Elizabeth, and we have a good relationship between them. I was there with my wife, and we just enjoyed it. I mean, they're good friends of us.
Good food.
Yeah. If Squawk wanted to do our show from Riyadh, would that be okay? Could we come and do the show from where you live?
CNBC is always welcome to come to Saudi Arabia anytime.
I like that.
I like that too.
Anytime. All of you have open invitation to come to Saudi Arabia. Anytime you wish, you're more than welcome to come to Saudi Arabia. Because we love you and admire you there and see you every day. Not only me, many Saudis.
And Squawk Box in particular? Squawk Box, this show in particular.
CNBC in general and Squawk Box in specific.
Excellent. Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you. Pleasure to see you.
Very much.
Thank you.
Prince Alwaleed Bin Talal, we thank him for joining us today. Make sure you join us on Monday. If the world still exists, Squawk is coming.